So there's one Black Templar model that is iconic and beloved by everybody, but I just can't get on with it, and that is the Castellan. I get why he's iconic and beloved. He's very reminiscent of the John Blanchard artwork, and he's very very Black Templar. I just don't really like it though. I think it's the big puffy chest and the tiny axe. I'm not a massive fan. But I do need one for my army, so I do need to paint one up. But I thought it'd be kind of cool if we could take this model, paint it in a different way, or just try and do different things and change up what I don't like, to see if I can fall in love with it and change my mind. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to unbox this boy, build him up, and see if we can paint him in a way that I like him. And here we are, the Black Templar Castellan. Let's just open this bad boy up straight away and have a look and see what's inside, shall we? Oh, I've not seen that before. I have like a plastic tray to have them in as a first. Yeah, and there we go. So this is one thing I have heard about it, is its monopose. It's just one tiny little sprue and half of the body. Yeah, look at that. Like the body and the back are all like one big unit. And then like these shoulder pads are like, yeah, baked into it. So that's the one like downside of one thing that I know about this model that's put me off. Although I am looking at this actually, and oh my god, hold on. One thing I didn't know is look at that backpack. Wow, that is really cool. Okay, yeah, I'm really impressed with the backpack. I like that a lot. Oh, okay, maybe, you know what, maybe my mind has been changed already. Maybe I do like this model. That's it, video over. obviously I'm joking. We're going to build this up and paint it to the full, so we've got loads more left to do. But my initial reaction, that backpack is really nice. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. But what isn't really nice is, yeah, it's just like one big kind of block of monopose everything. So I'm not a massive fan of that. But what we'll do is we'll clip all this off, we'll build him up, and then we'll see sort of how that looks. And here he is, our Black Templar Castellan, all built and primed in a Raven Black from Colourforge. And I guess now that it's built, yeah, my issues with it are still kind of present. That big puffy chest isn't as bad as I thought, to be fair. These huge shoulder pads, which I do really like, are kind of compensating. But I do kind of wish this weapon was a bit more. That was one of my issues, was it feels like a small, tiny little hand axe. And like, this is a big dude. He should have like a big, massive, like two-handed, like dual-wielding axe or a polearm or something, I feel like. But he's looking alright, and he's looking kind of cool. I'm keen to put some colour on him and give him like this sort of interesting approach and vibe that I want to go for to try and make it my own. And that painting approach is, I've got this idea. The Black Templars themselves, they're like religious, fanatical zealots. And they've got all of that sort of like Catholic, Holy Knights kind of vibe to them. So one thing I wanted to do with this dude is kind of give him that sort of like walking cathedral vibe. So the big main attraction is these two shoulder pads, right? These massive stone skull shoulder pads. They themselves look like a sort of like stone monument that would belong in like a huge religious building, like a cathedral. So why not expand on that and make the whole thing like, yeah, like a walking cathedral religious vibe. So the one thing other than the shoulders that gave me this idea was the backpack, because this looks like it would be a relic in a religious building anyway, like the skull inside this like little house with the candles and everything. So yeah, like these two kind of gave me that idea. So that's the vibe we're going to go for, like a walking cathedral Dark Souls boss. So what we're going to start off with to achieve this look is we're just going to slap some Abaddon Black on the black armor panels. And then I'm going to start with the Tabard. So what I want to do with that is start off with, going to slap on some like Ushabti Bone onto it, a nice bright sort of like tan colour. And then we're going to really weather it down and darken it with like some Seraphim Sepia, maybe a bit of Agrax Earthshade, and even like a glaze of Rhinox Hide at the bottom to make it proper tattered and worn. Right, so that's just some of the black layered over the armor panels, and I know we've done like a black undercoat, but the Abaddon Black is different to the Raven Guard matte black we sprayed on, so it's good just to establish that Abaddon Black look. It's nice and smooth. I like it. I forgot what these base paints are like. They use contrast so much. And then as for the Tabard, we just did some Ushabti Bone and then like a watered down Seraphim Sepia to make it a little bit darker. But it's kind of sat in some recesses and pulled a little bit on the back here, but that's okay because what we're going to do next is similarly, we're going to water down a little bit of Agrax Earthshade, if I can find the pot. There it is. Water down a little bit of Earthshade, and we're going to run it just in the recesses. And then after that, we're going to glaze on some Dryad Bark. So we're just going to water this down so it's really thin and keep applying like really thin layers over and over again to build up like a gradient and a transition. But from the bottom, not the whole thing, which can like just have this bottom be like dirty and tattered and worn down here. Maybe a little bit up here. The same on this side. So we'll cover this anyway. So this is the Tabard. This is done. Now it got a little bit out of hand, as you probably saw. So originally I did genuinely plan on having just some brown at the bottom and kind of gradiently build up on like a smooth transition. But I kind of overloaded the brush a bit too much, as you probably saw. So I put a little bit too much on there. It was kind of splattering about, and then I wouldn't say panicked, but I just got a little bit messy and a little bit all over the place. Like if you look at my wet palette, it's like, yeah, I was mixing in like the browns, the Ushabti Bones, I was like watering it down, kind of mixing and muddying it together to make it kind of like blobby mess. But you know what, actually, especially if we look at the back, I actually quite like it, you know. It's actually, so originally I wanted that clean transition, but thinking about it, I do think the sort of tattered, muddy, splashy all over the place kind of fits this like Dark Souls boss, walking cathedral, like old, tattered, ancient being vibe. Like, it wouldn't be a clean transition. It would be kind of just all over the place, splattering and dirty. So like, put it back a little bit, like on the tabletop. It's quite cool, you know. It's quite, yeah, a bit more natural and a bit more like real rather than like a solid like line or a transition. Just a bit all spattered and everywhere. So that's really, really good. I'm happy with that. So next up, what I want to do is these shoulder pads, because they're like quite a big and iconic part of the model. So I kind of wanted to get these two main things out of the way, the tabard and the shoulder pads, just because they take up like so much space. So what we need to do first is what you're seeing, and that is just a layer of Screaming Skull just over the top of it, just to get that base layer down, especially with the black undercoat. It's going to take a few layers of this Screaming Skull, but we'll put down a nice few coats of Screaming Skull, get a nice even application, and then once we've done this, what we can do is then start layering some stuff up. So what I want to do is put down a layer of, what is it? Seraphim Sepia. Yeah, get that washed, put it down. So it just add some tint to the shoulder pads. You will sit in those recesses, darken down some of the areas. And then after that, just going to relayer up some more of this Screaming Skull just to establish some of the highlights and the definitive layers. And then we'll probably just finish off with a sort of edge highlight of Wraithbone just on some of the upper facing sections. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I'm well happy with how that skull's come out, man. That looks really nice. So yeah, we just blended in those colours like we mentioned. The where is it? Yeah, the base of Screaming Skull, and then that sort of like dirty wash to kind of dull it down. One thing I'm not happy about though, just really minor, is, well, I kind of am and aren't, with these skulls around the edge. I know some people have them as gold or Balthasar. I guess on the box art, yeah, they're a bit metallic. But I want them to be stone, just because I want that vibe. Yeah, like we keep saying, that cathedral, religious, kind of big walking statue almost. So I want a lot of stone, a lot of like cold colours on this. I don't want lots of metallics and decoration. I want this big stone heavy model. So I wanted to do the skulls around the edge in stone colours like Screaming Skull and Wraithbone. The only minor thing is, I think when I was putting the base coats on, I flooded it a bit too much, so some of them have lost definition. I've applied some more, I've given it some more definition with some highlights of the Wraithbone and whatnot, so it has brought some of it back. But no, I'm really, really happy with this. Super, super chuffed. I guess the only non-metallic thing we've got for this torso really is these straps on his chest. Although I think that big thing in the middle might be metallic this, I'm not 100% sure. What I want to do with these straps is some kind of like a dark brown, like a leathery look. And then I'll wash some red over the top, probably Flesh Tearers, like the darkest red I've got. So it's almost like a dark brown red leather. So that is the leather straps on the chest, and we've also finally started to dip into some metallic paints and some shiny colours. And yeah, I've got some feelings and thoughts I wanted to get out. That's why we're up here. So with the straps, I just did what I said. I put Rhinox Flesh Tearers, and then it was a bit too red, so I wanted to dull it down. So I did Agrax Earthshade and a little bit more Rhinox, just like splattered over the top, looking good. And then similarly, I put on the Balthasar because we don't want this to be a bright, bold model with like shiny Liberator and Retributor. We want it to be dark, dingy, grim Balthasar. So I put on the Balthasar. It still needs some Agrax Earthshade, but I was like, right, we need to Agrax Earthshade, then probably highlight it. And I was looking at all my bronze. I was like, I've got Sycorax. That'd be like a nice like highlight on the knees to make it shiny. Then I was like, actually, no. Maybe we don't. I don't think I actually want this to be shiny and like well highlighted, you know. I think I might just put the Agrax Earthshade on it and make it all dark and dingy, because like what I want is, when you look at this model, I don't want the bright highlights of Balthasar to stand out and all this volume and stuff. What I want is a real dark, is it saturated the right word? I don't know. But dark, dingy details that all kind of blur into this like ugly mess. Not blur as in like incoherent, but kind of this whole vibe. But then these two huge like stone shoulder pads like sort of standing out. That's what I want. I want when you look at it, the stone shoulder pads are like, whoa, that's where your eyes are drawn to, because they're like really bright. They're really highlighted, I think quite well, to be fair. And also that was the thought. I was like, man, this guy, if he's like a religious cathedral guarding monster, like he would kind of be like obsessed with these big statues depicting things. And like, maybe that's the thing he's like so proud of these big shoulders. So that's what I wanted to make bright and bold. And then and then I was thinking like, yes, I don't want to highlight the bronze because I want it to all sort of sink into the middle and then his shoulders stand out. And then like, just like having that chain of thought, I was like, yes, it's really cool having this like this idea and executing it, and like, okay, now I've got the ball rolling. I'm really enjoying this. And that's the Agrax Earthshade applied over, grab a brush actually, because it's different washes over different sections. So we put Earthshade on all this like sort of big, huge harness, the belt stuff and the trim, just make it all dirty and grime. Like I mentioned, we didn't edge highlight it or anything, we left it grimy and dirty, so that when you look at the model, the first thing you're drawn to is these massive skull shoulder pads, because they are my favourite thing. And also I think they're the focal point of the model. And then also we put some colours on the pipes. So we did black on these lower ones down here with a little bit of grey. And then we also did Balthasar on the ones that are going into the chest, because I was like, there might be like what's powering things or something. I just kind of wanted to break up the pipes so it wasn't like 1, 2, 3, 6, 7 of the same colour. In a similar vein, I actually put Nuln Oil on this Balthasar pipes, not Agrax Earthshade, because I wanted to differentiate a little bit between all the Balthasar. I didn't want it all to be the same sort of colour and vibe. And also I didn't want to try and use loads of different colours. One thing I'm focusing on with this is I want to try and only use a small handful of colours and keep reusing shades, rather than being like, oh, Balthasar here, gold here, silver here, yellow here, you know what I mean? So just black, bronze, and these sort of like bony colours. And so far we're doing all right. Obviously there was some reddish brown in the leather, and there's going to be some reddish brown on this handle. But honestly, that might be it. This gun needs to be a colour. I'm not sure what to do. I might try and put contrast over the top of it, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We've just got a couple of things left up on this chest before we can get there, and that is this axe, I think, is the last thing. I mean, I guess actually you're probably screaming to me about highlights on the armour. We are going to do that. What I want to highlight is greys. So I saw this incredible video from, what was it called, like the Plastic Surgeon? Yeah, this video was incredible. We can get rid of the light. So he did like a highlight on the black armour. Yeah, wait. He did this cool highlight here where he stipbles on some greys around the armour and stuff. So I actually might copy that, you know, and do something similar. So just stipple along some greys down the shin pads and the armour. But I want to wait till the end. I kind of want to paint everything first and then look at the highlights. So I'm just about to do the gem on the necklace. I feel like I should mention, because I've been doing this like throughout the process and realised I haven't actually mentioned it on camera, but what I'm doing a lot of is on my palette is when it's coming to doing a colour. So for example, the rosemary beads were Rhinox Hide, but when it came to watering it down, like thinning the paint, I wasn't actually using water, I was using the Flesh Tearer's contrast, so it's that colour here, like a reddish brown kind of colour, just to stick to that overall vibe. And I'm about to do the same with the Khorne Red, so I want the gem to be a little bit, just a tiny bit brighter, but I don't want it to stand out. So what I've got is some Khorne Red, and then that's not been watered down. And now when it comes time to dilute it, we'll take this Rhinox Hide Flesh Tearer's Red mix, and let's see if we can dilute it with that and make it a little bit darker, so it's a little bit more, I think desaturated is the word. So I just mentioned how I'm making this Khorne Rhinox Flesh Tearer's soup, and I was like, oh, I'm only going to use it for the gem. But actually, I put it on the gem, and I was like, this is quite a nice desaturated, like, dark red. I keep saying desaturated. I don't even know if that's the right word, but it's like a nice dark red. So I figured, you know what, it might look quite nice on the handles of the weapons. It does, you know. I'm a real big fan of that. I even kind of snuck ahead and did it on the gun casing as well. So just a really nice dark red. I guess we pretend it's on his arm. Obviously I'll have Leadblecher on it, but it does sort of fit the vibe, and I quite like it. It's nice. It also let me use a little bit of Khorne Red as a highlight on this handle, and yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm quite enjoying this actually, like making our own sort of colours and sticking to like a little like pool of the same, but like mixing them. This is good. I'm enjoying this. So we're like almost pretty much there for this whole torso now. I think, yeah, obviously we've got the grey armour highlights, but we'll do that at the end. I do need to finish up this axe though. I just want to chuck some like bright highlights in this top spiky bit, this kind of like decoration up here. Paint this skull. I want it the same as this skull because it fit in this cool vibe and this image we've got, so I'll do the same, like Screaming Skull, Seraphim, and Wraithbone, and like layer that up. But no, once we finish off this axe, I might just also quickly jump onto the gun because we've already started it as well. It's just going to be silver and Balthasar, like the rest of the stuff. Right, and here's just a little simple gun. Yeah, just the same sort of like silver, Balthasar, and that Rhinox Red mix that we've been making. It's looking good. I'm real happy with how it looks. It's nice and simple. I also painted, as you can see, that Templar like text. I did that in the Screaming Skull, just so it fit the overall vibe of like, yeah, like the tabard, the shoulders, almost as if like the whole thing is stone encased in like the gun casing, the armor, the straps. Like it's all stone underneath seeping through. I say that like it is whatever, it's just some text. It was a lot harder to paint than I thought, so it was a little bit messy, but it's okay, just a nice little feature. So what's left? We've just got the backpack and the face. That was quite a quick little one, so I guess we could always move on to the backpack because I've got some ideas. There's a lot of skulls on here, and I'm also like really enjoying this sort of skull, Screaming Skull, Seraphim Sepia, Wraithbone situation we're doing. I'm enjoying it a lot, so the opportunity to paint more skulls is good. And there's just some of the base colours done. I've not done any washes or highlights yet. I just wanted to get like the colours on to get a vibe for it. Oh, actually I'm lying. I did a wash of Seraphim Sepia on the skull. I just need to relayer up some of the other highlights. But I did just want to sort of, yeah, get a vibe for how it would look with these dark reds, the browns, and like the Balthasar. And yeah, it's a good vibe. I like this little package. It's nice. I might brighten up that one down there just a teeny tiny bit. Just use some Dryad Bark on like the framing, like the confessional booth. Mixed it with, obviously I forgot to mention, but yeah, I'm mixing all of my browns with the Flesh Terror's Red still, even when I use this Dryad Bark, just so it's all kind of this weird coherent like theme along, like red coherency along it, you know? So I've put on the greys along the top of the backpack, and I was just thinking, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I can't 100% tell if that shine there is the highlights we put on, or just the general light reflecting. I guess it's a good sign that we've put the highlights in the right place. I guess if we turn the lights off, actually. Oh god, yeah, look how awful that is. But then, oh, to be fair, actually, it does show off the highlights, yeah. It's like, shows them like popping through. Okay, that's not too bad. Let's dim the lights down. Yeah. I'm still not a massive fan on the top of the rounded sections. They're okay. But I quite like it there across the top of the backpack. It kind of adds a little bit something to it. So, yeah, I can stick with this. Right, so with this head being done, that's pretty much everything. I just tried to keep this thing simple, just a touch on it. Just the same sort of colours as normal. We'll get into it in the review, but I didn't want to draw too much attention to the head. I want these big shoulder pads to be the main focus. And yeah, I'm hoping that once I glue it on, yeah, it'll just sit in the middle of them and kind of be okay. But that's everything for the mini. We can almost get to the review stage. There's one final thing I need to do, and that is just put some mud on the base. I don't want to go too crazy with the base. I think if I had the foresight for this like paint job, I kind of could have created like an elaborate base. But I think I want to keep it nice and simple and just put some brown mud on the bottom. I do that across all my Templars, like a swampy base. I just don't want to put any bright green moss or fake like plants on it because I think it will clash with the colour scheme. So I'm going to quickly slap some mud on this base, maybe some stones or some rocks just to give it some character. I guess the next thing you'll see is the nice little review stage. Let's take a look at our handiwork. Oh, and here he is, our Black Templar Castellan. And you know what? Yeah, this is looking really good. I've definitely come around on this model, you know. So like I mentioned, the whole point of this video was like, can I paint up this dude in a way where I actually like him? Because just looking at the box art and the original image, I wasn't a massive fan of him. But you know what? I actually love this. It looks so cool. I really, really like the vibe of like dark, dingy, dark reds, blacks, greys, and Balthasar, and then these big, huge, radiant shoulders. I do think it's taken to the extreme a little bit. Like that chest, shoulders are just like bright as anything. They're like proper in your face. And I don't know if they maybe dwarf some of the other features, but it is the desired effect. Like if you just kind of took him off screen, put him on, the first thing you see is, oh, his big like shoulder pads and this like tabard down the middle. But then as you look closer, you're like, oh, he's got some nice highlights and like the Balthasar Gold and that sort of big axe. So yeah, do you know what? I do think this was a bit of a success, and I have changed my mind on the model. I do quite like him. And I guess just to go over the paint job, if we start at the back, because this thing is actually one of my favourite parts. I love this so much. It's such a cool little backpack. Like I love the like confessional booth of like the archway holding in the skull, like all of this like dark red leathery brown that we've got going on here, just in these sections. These are really, really cool to see like a nice arch, like holding in the skull, like I mentioned, almost like a confessional booth. And I do like that it's a dark red, and then sort of a dark red on the Templar cross as well. It's like a real nice imagery with the Balthasar. I absolutely love this. This is my favourite part. Well, I say that though, I do love these skulls. I do think they're really, really good. Yeah, like I mean, this is like the super zoom. So some of the detail might be lost, but I am really happy with how this has turned out. Like if we turn the lights down just a touch, yeah, look at that. You can see that depth, like those sort of highlights on the top. The only thing I would change is I mentioned to add more definition to the skull trim. I think I flooded them a bit too much. And maybe, just maybe, do a recessed shade of like Agrax Earthshade or something along the edges of the skulls, just to give them a little bit more like pop, a bit more definition. But that's the only thing I'll change about those two. But definitely my favourite parts is, yeah, this backpack. Like the reds on it look really, really nice. Yeah, and those shoulder pads, like that imagery there is really good. I absolutely love it. And then similarly, I mentioned it, but I like the dark red on the gun and the chest and the axe handle. I was a really big fan of diluting down the Rhinox Hide with flesh tearers to make this like dark dingy red. I think it fits the vibe well. One minor thing actually I have really enjoyed, so we zoom in again. Yeah, just putting some Agrax Earthshade on the bolts of the axe, just so it's got like a nice little rusty bolt feel to it. That looked really nice. Just a minor thing to make those bolts like stand out a bit more. I think I did it on the back as well, yeah. Just to make them feel old and rusty. Big fan of that. But yeah, really happy with how this turned out, and definitely changed my mind on it. There we go. I've changed my mind. I actually like the Castellan. I think it's quite a cool model. And I was thinking, I was like, why did I like this so much? What was the deal? What happened here? And I think it's because I didn't care about the model. So like, when I started painting it, I wasn't like, this is the shining beacon. I love it. I want it to be perfect. I was like, I don't really care about it too much. So I was willing to try things that I was like, if this doesn't look good or is messed up, it's fine. So I'll just try it anyway. And that resulted in me like finding really cool things that I like. So trying out, like I mentioned, the diluting of the reds and the browns to make these different colours, trying out the shading of the greys, things that I don't think I would try on a model I love. Like, for example, I've got somewhere back here High Marshal Hellbrook, and I'm like, I want to do him justice. I want him to be the best model ever. So I probably wouldn't have tried those things with High Marshal because I was like, I'd be like, I like him, he's cool, like I wanted to look the best. I don't too scared to take risks. Whereas with the Castellan, there was no fear because I was like, I don't really like him, so he turns out a bit pants, it's fine. And that resulted in, like I mentioned, me trying new things that looked really cool, to be fair. So I'd recommend buying and painting models you don't like. So you don't mind trying experimenting with them. It's weird, but yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. It was cool. I've definitely changed my mind, and I'm glad I did it. But as always, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like and subscribe, and tune in next time. Bye!